Here are some horror movies where the villains win. I can't really give a spoiler warning for what movies we're going to talk about since, that'd be pretty much telling you how that movie ends. So, just to be safe, spoilers for every movie ever. It follows about a girl named Jay Hai who sleeps with her new boyfriend and ends up getting cursed with this creature that, as the title says, follows her around and only she can see it. This one may come as a bit of surprise if you've seen the movie since it ends with Jay getting rid of the creature and sort of being fine, I guess. I know it's supposed to be left ambiguous whether or not the person following them is a monster or just a random person walking, but that doesn't really matter since they don't kill it anyway. The way they get rid of it is just following its rules and passing it on to somebody else. So in the end, the monster pretty much wins since it gets to keep doing what it was doing and eventually it will get back to Jay somehow. The 1976 and 2006 version of this movie almost end in the exact same way. By the end of both these movies, Robert Thorne figures out that his adoptive son is the Antichrist and he drags him to a church to, stop him permanently. Unfortunately, the police are alerted because Robert was speeding in his car towards the church and they gun him down before he can do anything. And both movies end with Damien, the Antichrist in question, being adopted by the president and smiling into the camera. We're told throughout both movies that the whole purpose of the Antichrist is to get to a position of power so he can start doing evil stuff, I guess. David Mills and Detective Somerset spent most of this movie trying to catch a serial killer who's doing killings based around the 7 deadly sins, as evident by this poster. Towards the end of the movie, the killer gives himself up and says that he'll tell them where the final body is if they take him to a desert. However, instead of doing that, he explains that the final piece of his plot is David, who in his eyes is Wrath. Then he has a box delivered, which David's wife's severed head is inside of it, and that enrages David enough to gun him down right then and there, and I guess he goes to prison. At least it's implied that's what's gonna happen. And even though the killer died in the end, that's pretty much what he wanted. I love and hate this movie because it's so good all the way up until the ending. The movie revolves around two siblings, Kaylee and Tim, who enact a revenge plot against a cursed mirror that pretty much ruined their family when they were kids. The mirror essentially killed their parents and Tim ends up getting framed for it, and he goes to psychiatric prison. And once he's released, Kaylee decides that they should destroy it. Tim is initially hesitant, but he obviously ends up going along with it anyway, otherwise there would be no movie. A lot of the psychological horror stuff is really cool, but it ends with the siblings being tricked with an illusion and Kaylee being killed by a trap that they had initially set up to destroy the mirror. Once that's all said and done and the police arrive, they take Tim back to psychiatric prison since in their eyes he just killed another family member after just getting released from psychiatric prison. Unfortunately, horror movies that revolve around illusions and stuff usually have bad endings, which sucks, but it's something you kind of just get used to. I'll definitely make a part 2 since there's a lot more to add to this list. I just didn't want to make this video any longer than it already is. But let me know what movies you think I missed and I'll add it into the next part.